Alright, we're rolling.
Good afternoon. I am Thomas Wright, student number 403-6247, and I'm here to give an information brief. And I'm attempting to persuade you to take a course of action. This is concerning a Army Management Program issue. Next slide, please. This briefing is unclassified, and again, it is persuasion brief by which I will persuade you to make the appropriate decision. Next slide. The purpose of this brief is to obtain my unit commander's decision on a course of action that will improve my unit's readiness for deployment. Next slide. Currently, my unit is overdue in APFT, that's the Army Physical Fitness Test, and we do not comply with the Department of Army mandated policy guidance that has been established within the unit weight program. So we have two issues here that we're looking at. Next slide, please. My recommendation is going to be to implement a unit level weight program to comply with the established Department of the Army policy and to enhance my unit's physical readiness and improve the morale of the soldiers within the unit. Next slide, please. Here are the facts. Currently, we have no program in place. There is no established system in place to track soldiers who may have an underlying medical condition. No mandatory record of height and weight documents to support the processing of all of the evaluations that are necessary for OERs and NCRs that are submitted to the Department of Army from the Unit Personnel Action Section. Next slide, please. Here's an assumption. There is no weight program in place because the leadership cannot meet the Department of the Army standards, or the morale is affected. Soldiers feel there's preferential treatment within the unit. There's a buddy-buddy system used to falsify documents, OERs and NCRs. Next slide, please. Here's a solution. And I must say, it is my persuasion that both course of actions are put on the table. However, I recommend that you implement something that is going to contribute to the morale. Course of action number one is that we implement a unit level weight program. Course of action two, that we do not implement a unit weight program and we continue to conduct the height and weight while monitoring the unit's progress. Next slide. Here's the analysis of course of action one to implement the program. Here are the advantages. It complies with the Department of the Army policy and guidance, and it establishes a system of fairness. It'll boost the morale. It'll validate and verify the accuracy of all height and weight data that are submitted on the OERs and the NCRs. Again, ladies and gentlemen, we are an army about standards, discipline. This course of action complies with the discipline of the Army. Next slide, please. Here are the disadvantages of the program. It is time-consuming due to the number of soldiers that are assigned to the unit. It will require a man pool of resources, a minimum of 3 soldiers to conduct the tape measurement for each soldier that does not meet the height and weight standard, i.e. they exceed the body screen table weight. It will require a leader certification training. Next slide. Course of action number 2. Again, I strongly disagree with this. Here are the advantages of it. It permits maximum use of time for the unit to concentrate on the road to war training. This is training that the unit needs to do to deploy. The unit leaders will feel that they are permitted to lead and train their soldiers without micromanagement. It will facilitate maximum bonding with the subordinates. It will give each of the leaders and subordinates maximum time to bond prior to the unit's deployment. Next slide. However, ladies and gentlemen, here is the bottom line up front. It does not comply with the Army policy. It does not teach mentor subordinates, leaders to see and do what right looks like. It does not promote integrity. The integrity violations within the promotion systems will be compromised. Again, this does not comply with the Department of Army standards. Next slide. Here's a comparison. Course of Action 1, which I strongly encourage, it complies with the Department of Army policy. It promotes the integrity of the promotion system. It mentors the subordinate leaders. It allows you to keep your job. Course of Action 2, it does not comply with the Department of Army policy. I say again, it does not comply. It does not promote integrity. It does not mentor the subordinate leaders. And, if possible, we could get relieved if it's not done correctly. Ladies and gentlemen, I say that we are an army of standards. Next slide, please. It is my conclusion, sir, ma'am, that I recommend approval of Course of Action number 1 because it complies with the Army policy and reaffirms the reason why you and I are in the leadership position to lead, train, and mentor our subordinates without compromising the Army standards. Sir, ma'am, this concludes my information brief. I strongly recommend persuasion of Course of Action number 1 approval. Thank you.